right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. We will go ahead and get started. This is content writing to improve SEO and visitor engagement. I will go ahead and share my screen here. My name is Whitney Wright. I am the creative marketing manager here at Ezoic. I am a photographer, videographer, graphic designer, writer, craftsperson. So just kind of generally, I guess, in the creative field. I am a contributor and producer of the digital publishing video series you may have heard of that we have, Ezoic Explains, and guest host on the digital publishing and advertising podcast series, Publisher Lab. And then also, if you've been keeping up to date on the coronavirus blog, I have been mainly the force behind that. And this is my third time being at a Pubtelligence on the stage, so I'm happy to be here. So what is on the agenda for the day? We're going to be talking about content and how to structure that content. Your content is the #1 thing that you should focus on to improve your website's earnings and user experience. And along with that comes how your content is structured. There are certainly many ways to structure content, and everyone is going to have a different style and different writing style, but there are some proven ways to structure content that will help with higher ranking positions in Google search, and also influencing more page views per visit and longer session durations. So you're going to get all of that by following some of these tips that I'm going to give you. So just briefly, we're going to be going over how to choose a title, and then how else you can improve your introduction, how to break up content, how to structure content, and how to finish the end of the article. So one of the most important things that you can do for your content is to create a main title that is both direct and then true to whatever your content is about. The title and introduction should briefly, but also needs to be really clear, needs to relay what you are discussing in the article. You want something that is intriguing, but not overly clickbaity to target your audience, whatever your target audience may be. It should be a relatively specific question that you can provide the answer to, and it shouldn't be too broad. There's just too much competition out there if you're going to go for something really broad, and your website is more likely to get lost in the mix. You may think that by being broad, you can capture more of an umbrella of people that may be looking for information on a particular topic, but visitors are more likely to click on an article that they know specifically answers a question. And so the more niche that you can get, the better, and this will also help you rank more likely. So to pick out your title, almost all titles and headers should be researched ahead of time. You aren't just throwing something up out there and hoping that it sticks. You want to do your research so you can pointedly target a specific problem that you want to help someone solve. And this is best done through keyword research. I'm going to go over keyword research briefly, but Doug Cunnington's presentation from earlier this week would be a great place to learn about this more in depth and step by step. His presentation was called the Keyword Golden Ratio. You should be receiving all the links to the recordings via email if you haven't already received it. So you can go back and rewatch ones, watch ones that you weren't able to attend. So moving on from that, I'm just gonna, like I said, briefly go over keywords. So you can easily decide what to write about going into a tool like SEMrush or SimilarWeb and typing in a keyword. So I'm into cycling and have done a bike tour. So for this example, I'm going to be using the keyword touring bike. Touring bike is a really broad keyword search to rank for. And when I typed it into SimilarWeb, the search volume is 42,833. So there's just a very slim chance I'm ever going to rank for touring bike. However, there are plenty of related keywords and phrases that we can try to rank for using phrase match or related keywords with lower search volume. Phrase match allows us to see what people are actually typing into their search browsers that are related to the topic, such as touring bike. So for example, what are touring bikes has a search volume of only 620. So this is something that would be much easier to target than just touring bikes. And this would be a good long tail keyword to target. So you can use multiple phrase matches within one single piece of content. You don't just have to pick one. Some good ones to choose from in this particular instance might be ones related to the different types of touring bikes, such as so you have steel, you have titanium, maybe gravel touring bikes. You want to you can use multiple of those within the same content, and multiple, you can use them as H2s, which we'll get into a little bit further. Another way that you can find title ideas is to type in a query to Google and see what it tries to autofill with, as this will be what people are searching in Google. So for touring bikes, there are touring bikes, under 1,000. You have touring bikes for women. You have touring bikes for short riders. These are things that people have actually searched, and so it's autofilling that. And you can use these as ways to pick new content and also for titles for your content. Alternatively, you could search the word touring bikes and look at people also asked. And I'm sure if you scroll down a little bit, you can usually see that. And here we can see which bicycle is best for touring and what is the difference between a road bike and a touring bike. So like I said, these are great places to start with your title, or if you have a piece of content that you want to write, but it seems really broad, you can use keyword in Google to figure out what those titles are. And then after you know what your overarching topic is, you can use the same approach to create the H2s within your content as well. So you can also actually use this tactic and keywords to appear in rich snippet results. So we've all seen something similar here, whereas if you were to type in Abraham Lincoln into Google, you would see this on the side. This is a rich snippet, and it's called position 0. So to appear in a rich snippet, you first want to select a topic that you can ask multiple questions about and then provide succinct answers. So you want to make sure the topic has some rich results for queries about it already. So you know that it's a popular enough topic to have rich snippets, and then it can also give you some ideas on topics that you can write about. So like I originally said, you want to be asking questions with your titles and your H2s. These types of questions should typically start with something that's like how to, how does, what is, what can. There are obviously many similar variations that you could use of this, and these types of titles work especially well when you're targeting a specific question or query in search results. So most of the times you'll then use the broader keyword topic that you wanted to cover right after the how to part of the title. So if we're using our previous example, we would use something like what touring bike is best for women. So you have the what, and then you have touring bike, which is that original broad keyword, and then you go into the more specific is best for women. The main point with the title and H2s is that you want to be asking a specific question that you can then answer succinctly. So I'll probably be using the word succinctly quite a bit here. You want your titles and your H2s to be succinct, and you want your answers to be succinct as well. By using these questions to create your H2s and guide your content is more likely to appear as a search result that answers that question. So let's say you have your title down, you know what it's going to be. What else can I do to make my introduction engaging? You want to use bulleted lists or numbers that you can use right after the title or after the introductory paragraph. And this is not only good for when Google crawls your website, but it also gives users a quick summary of what is within the content and in what order they can find it. Lists allow users to quickly understand if your content answers their question and ultimately keeps them from bouncing immediately. So you can see right here, we have a H2 is invalid traffic, bot traffic. And then you have this quick short answer, invalid traffic is not always bot traffic, because there are more types of valid traffic than just bot traffic. So this is short and quick. You want the quick answer right there. And then to finish the introductory section, you can also link the visitor to other content you've written that may also help them answer similar questions. So in the same example, you have the Google defines invalid traffic as. You can see it's highlighted in green. That means it's a link, and it's linking to something that we've already written before that has to do with Google's invalid traffic. So you may go through your older content and find that you have information on your website that a user might find more valuable than what you're currently providing with your new content. And this is totally fine, but you can do this and keep them on your website and get more page views per visit, and also prevent bounces from your website by giving them information that you might already have on a similar topic. So when you're ready to write your content, there are two main ways to break it up to open up your ability to rank for specific queries and then get more organic traffic just from your content structure. And so the first way we'll talk about are H2s. As I said before, it's kind of the same process as getting a title for your H2s. You want to they allow you to post a bunch of variations of the title and related questions. So if the article is titled, "What are the best touring bikes for women?" then some H2s might be, "What are the best touring bikes for men?" or "What is the best touring bike for beginners?" You can continue to go through this with similar questions, and those will give you your H2s. They're meant to give readers a way to know what is coming up next, and while they break up the content and organize the content. And then not only does it help readers, it also provides a flag for search engines that something is important and that the content following it is going to provide an answer or important information. Content should be organized in short paragraphs under H2s. You don't want these long chunks of text, as you can see right here on the slide. It's very daunting to read. It's hard to keep your place. People don't want that. So try to avoid big blocks of text. And basically what you're doing is the easier it is to navigate through your content, you're going to have better user engagement. So then there's also H3s, H4s, and H5s, which people use. They are far less important for SEO and getting those rich snippets, but they can help break up content if you think it provides a better user experience. But overall, it's usually just best to stick to H2s, as these will help you in Google. And if you're using a bunch of subheaders, H3s, H4s, and H5s, underneath one of your H2s to split up your content, it may be best to just write another article on that specific content so that you can get really detailed on it. The next way to break up content is to use images. They are nearly as important as H2s, and they kind of work hand in hand with H2s. I think we can all agree that we hate reading those big, large chunks of text with no break for our eyes, even if there are paragraph breaks. Images should be, however, relevant and helpful. It's not something that you just throw on to break up content. It should be something that has to do with what you're talking about, and not just kind of a random image that's related. They're a good way to draw the reader's eyes to a point you're trying to make, and you can help them find answers if it is relevant to the image. Images can also be used as a great way to illustrate a point you're trying to make. And then when you have those images, you want to use alt text in your image to potentially show Google that this is an image that's related to the H2 sections that are already in place. So your alt text should generally be aligned with the H2 heading that is directly above it, and this will also increase the chances of it ranking for a related snippet. So kind of mentioned this before. That's the initial setup. You have your title, you might have an image, you have H2s, maybe an image, and basically once you start writing your content, you want to answer succinctly and immediately right after the H2. This not only helps the reader, but it makes it more likely that your content could end up in a rich snippet. And then, so you can see right here, what is ad viewability? The first sentence is directly going to answer the question. And that's both good for Google and for users. And after you're done with that one sentence or that short answer, you can then use the rest of the following content to go into more depth. So you can see here, right after that first sentence, it goes into more detail and it gives an example about CNN. So this is good for keeping users from bouncing quicker because they have the answer to the question immediately. So they're not going to be searching around and get annoyed and leave. And really the majority of people will want context on why that is the answer, and they'll keep reading. So it's not going to make people bounce faster. It just helps readers kind of get more into your content immediately. And then once you're writing your content, your answers should be as objective as possible, and publishers should try to not be agenda driven, but informational. Many people don't want to read biased kind of sites. They want information. So give them unbiased, helpful content and not just a perspective of your own. So as I mentioned before, H2s throughout your content can be determined in exactly the same way as the title. through asking questions in Google and using keyword research. Then the people also ask question or section can give you ideas for headers, but then it also allows you to see what users' search results are and what's trending on that specific topic. So you can use that to then write an article that will likely rank quickly. Broad questions and keywords are going to be hard to rank for because there are just so many sites out there that can answer something simple. So for example, if you were trying to write an article on what color is Saturn, there's already a rich snippet for that. There's already so many sites that go over what color is Saturn. But if I wanted to write something on the colors of Saturn, I could use the H2s to then answer more specific Saturn color questions, and I would be more likely to rank for those specific queries. So for example, a good H2 about the color of Saturn or title to try to rank for is what colors are the rings on Saturn. So just getting a little bit more specific there. Not all your H2s have to be questions though, but asking and answering questions is very important to being able to dynamically target queries that could allow you to immediately rank in the top position of Google search. So then when you're finishing up your content, you should, at the very end, in a paragraph or in a bulleted list, you need to summarize what you went over as best as you can. This is good for the reader. It also is helpful. Sometimes readers will look at the beginning of an article and then skim through it, and at the bottom, you can have a quick summary and they will read that as well. And then if you're able to link at the end of your article as well, just kind of like we did at the beginning, if there's relevant content, you want to link to that as well so that they stay on your site longer. So give them another recommendation, a related recommendation to stay on your site. And then lastly, if you have a comments section on your site, prompt readers to leave a comment. It can be definitely cumbersome to moderate the comment section, but comments can lead people to spend more time on your pages, which ultimately make your content rank higher. And people generally, they like to feel connected. They like to feel kind of in a community, especially if they are really into what you're writing. And the comment section can be a great way to make readers feel that way. And then it also gives users a chance to ask you questions, and then you can answer and you're interacting with your readers, and that gets them more loyal. And then lastly, the comment section can be a good way to see what your readers are thinking and asking about, which then can give you new content ideas. So wrapping things up, just like I said, it's important to have a bulleted list or summary at the end. I've been using these tactics throughout the entire presentation. Relevant H2s, been using bulleted lists, and trying to use images. So wrapping up this, you want to choose a title that's based on research, either through keyword tools or Google. And you want to ask questions in titles and H2s. You want to use bulleted or numbered lists. You link to any of your relevant content as much as possible. Break up content with H2s and images. Answer the title or the H2 question in a short and succinct way, and then you can go into more detail after. Make sure your questions and keywords are more specific than they are broad. Answer those questions as objectively as possible. At the end, summarize what your article was about, and then you want to invite readers to comment. So that's kind of it for this. I wasn't able to see if there were questions, but before we get into the Q&A, I do have an announcement. We have a publisher stimulus winner that I'm going to announce here. And the publisher stimulus winner, Eden, we will be sending you an email later. We'll get a hold of you after the session to then get you that publisher stimulus package. Next, what you can do is I will be hosting a Q&A if you have any questions that I wasn't able to get to during the presentation or that I didn't see. You will, like I said, receive an email with a link to the recordings if you wanted to go back and listen to one, wanted to listen to one again. You can follow Tyler and Ezoic on Twitter and then join. He's having a Q&A around 4 that you can ask him anything. I think it's going to be kind of Ezoic specific. So his Twitter handle is @TylerBishop, and then we have @Ezoic. And you can register for that Q&A at peptelligence.ezoic.com if you're interested in staying on with Tyler. We have some communities that you can join. We have the Ezoic community, and that's a great way to connect with fellow Ezoic publishers. And we have some of our own Ezoic members in there to answer questions. And then we have some groups on Facebook that are actually with some partners that we have. So we have Ezoic Publishers, which is Ben Adler's group, if you're familiar with him. We have Niche Pursuits, D&W, Make Money Blogging, Affiliate Niche Builders. These are really great sites to connect with other publishers, and these partners that we have really good insight and ideas. And then lastly, you can subscribe to our newsletter. If you go to ezoic.com/blog, at the very top there, we have a place that you can enter your email, and you will receive what we call 5 Bullet Friday. It has publisher updates as far as news. We put some Ezoic like new blogs or videos in there, so you can go there and sign up for our newsletter. So for now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And let's see. Oh, the stimulus winner. I'm so sorry. It was Eat and Fight. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing fight correctly. It was Eat and Fight is the stimulus winner. Sorry about that. So now it's time for the Q&A. We have one question here, and then I actually do have a question from Anita Campbell that she wrote ahead of time. Let's see. We have this question. Do you think H3s are a good place to place long tail keywords as well if your article requires you to split an H2 into multiple sections? I'm going to say it's not as good as an H2, just because, like I said, it's not as good for SEO as H2s are. But it's a better place than straight in the middle of your content. That's going to be harder to find. So I would say my first suggestion would be to try to fit it near an H2 or fit it in the H2. And then if not, keep it close to the H3 title. So Anita had a question that she had emailed me beforehand, and she asked that she's noticed more and more sites putting external links as footnotes at the end of the page. They then put their internal links embedded in text higher up on the page. That way they are able to still show that their content is credible and from reliable sources. Yet all the external links come later down the page, and sometimes they're in the footnotes or even inside a sources accordion that you must open up. What do you think the strategy of putting external links as footnotes, good or bad? As a former journalist, I think that it's best to put it in the content. And I think also while readers are reading, it gives them a boost of confidence that there is credible sources as they're actually reading. But as far as if it's good for SEO, not SEO, I don't think that it really matters. At least they're still citing sources. That's I guess my biggest thing. But yeah, as far as SEO, I don't think it really matters. I personally always link while I'm writing. I just think it's a greater courtesy to the people that wrote what I'm quoting. We have Eat and Fight on my website. I have my related image citing just above my H2 heading. Should I switch these around? Yeah, I would say switch those around, because what's first going to Google's first going to be interested in is the H2, and then the image following after is then coupled with that. So the H2 is the most important thing there. And then also, like I said earlier, you want to have alt text that is related to your H2 for that image. Steve Cruz, based on your and Ezoic's experience, is there a recommended post content length for maximum revenue? This is a good question, and unfortunately, the answer is it varies per publisher. So for some publishers, 0 to 250 words is like their sweet spot. That's where they make the most revenue. For others, it's 1,000 words per article. That's what's been making them the most money. And so it really just depends. If you are a part of Ezoic, Steve, I'm not sure if you are. there's a section in there that is for content length. I believe it's under content on the side there, and you can see specifically how well different article lengths are performing based on revenue, visits. Yeah, so it really just varies per publisher. We have here from Noemi, when you're writing a list post, should the items be H2? Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. From the panelist, Steve Cruz, if you look in the chat section, this link will take you, okay, yeah, if you click on that link, it'll take you to that report. Back to Noemi, when you're writing a list post, should the items be H2? I'm a little confused by your question. Are you saying if you're using bulleted lists, should you make those lists an H2? Is that what you're saying, Noemi? Okay. I would say not necessarily. Google will find those bulleted lists regardless. And you don't want a bunch of H2s all clustered together with nothing underneath them, because Google is looking for an H2 and then it's looking for an answer. So if you H2 all of your bulleted lists, that's not helping Google at all. And it's not like a kind of a sneaky way to get maybe featured with bulleted lists. It's just best to keep your bulleted lists as regular text. Okay, any other questions? Have a little bit more time here, just a few more minutes probably. Okay, if there's no other questions, then I will end this session. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for joining Pubtelligence. This is the last session for Pubtelligence. We appreciate you participating in our virtual event. I know things are a little different than usual, but it was good to see that everyone still showed up, and we hope that you'll join us at our next Pubtelligence event. Thanks so much, everyone.